Smoke fills the air, thick and choking. The acrid smell of burning pine hangs heavy. Once vibrant forests now stand as blackened skeletons, victims of a relentless inferno. This is the grim reality of Turkey's 2024 wildfire season, a season of unprecedented devastation that has left a nation reeling. From the picturesque coastline to the rugged interior, flames have ripped through the landscape, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Firefighters, exhausted and overwhelmed, battle valiantly on the front lines. Volunteers, many of them ordinary citizens, risk their lives alongside them, driven by a desperate hope to save their homeland. But the fires, fueled by a deadly combination of climate change and human negligence, continue to rage, testing the limits of human resilience. The 2024 fires represent a tipping point, a stark warning that climate change is not a distant threat, but a present danger. As the world watches in horror, Turkey's fiery crisis serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for global action on climate change. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. The summer of 2023 was the hottest in Turkey's recorded history, with temperatures soaring to a staggering 49 degrees Celsius. This, coupled with a 40% decrease in rainfall in the country's south since 2020, has created a tinderbox-like environment primed for disaster. The culprit is clear: climate change. As global temperatures rise, extreme weather events like heat waves and droughts are becoming more frequent and intense. These conditions, exacerbated by the ongoing climate crisis, have created the perfect storm for wildfires to ignite and spread with terrifying speed. The United Nations Environment Program warns that megafires, those exceeding 10,000 hectares, are now 7 times more likely due to these hotter, drier conditions. Dr. Selin Guven, a climate scientist at Bogazici University, paints a grim picture for Turkey's future. She projects a 30% increase in fire-prone days by 2030 if current trends continue. The science is undeniable. Climate change is a key driver of the wildfire crisis engulfing Turkey. Ignoring this reality will only lead to further devastation in the years to come. While climate change has undoubtedly created a more flammable landscape, human actions have acted as the match, igniting the inferno. A staggering 90% of Turkey's wildfires are estimated to be human-caused, with a toxic mix of negligence, arson, and poorly planned development fueling the flames. Arson, often motivated by land grabs for development, is a persistent problem. In Antalya alone, 15% of the 2024 fires are under investigation for suspected arson. Meanwhile, deforestation, driven by hydropower projects and mining operations, has stripped away 5% of Turkey's tree cover since 2000, leaving the land more vulnerable to fire. The introduction of fast-burning invasive species like eucalyptus has further exacerbated the problem. These trees, often planted for their rapid growth, burn much faster and hotter than native pine forests, creating even more intense and difficult-to-control wildfires. As Ahmet Demir, an investigative journalist with Burgun newspaper, points out, developers often lobby for rezoning burnt land, turning tragedy into profit. This cycle of destruction and exploitation only deepens the crisis, putting short-term economic gain ahead of long-term environmental sustainability. Turkey's wildfire crisis has exposed a concerning lack of preparedness and chronic underfunding of fire prevention and response systems. Despite the growing threat of wildfires, Turkey has failed to invest in the resources needed to combat these blazes. The country's firefighting capacity has come under scrutiny following the 2024 fires. At the height of the Çanakkale fires, only 3 of Turkey's 6 water bomber planes were operational. The 2021 grounding of Russian Beriev planes further hampered the country's response capabilities. Volunteers and prison inmates make up 60% of frontline firefighting crews. Relying on untrained and ill-equipped individuals is a recipe for disaster. Only 2% of the forestry budget is allocated to fire prevention infrastructure. The June 2024 leasing of helicopters and drones is a stopgap measure. Turkey needs a comprehensive, well-funded national strategy to address its wildfire crisis. The aftermath of Turkey's wildfires is a scene of utter devastation. The once thriving ecosystems lie in ruins, replaced by a desolate landscape of charred trees and ash. The environmental toll is immense, with an estimated 15 million tons of CO2 released into the atmosphere, further exacerbating the climate crisis. The human cost is equally staggering. Farmers like Ace Yilmaz, who lost her entire olive grove to the flames, now face an uncertain future. Tourism, a vital pillar of the Turkish economy, has been dealt a severe blow, with an estimated $1.6 billion in revenue lost. The iconic coastal town of Marmaris, once a magnet for tourists, has seen 80% of its pine honey production wiped out, devastating local livelihoods. The fires have displaced thousands, forcing them to flee their homes and communities. The psychological trauma of losing homes, livelihoods, and even loved ones will leave lasting scars on the Turkish psyche. The 2024 wildfire season serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of human society and the natural world. The destruction of the environment inevitably leads to the destruction of human lives and livelihoods. Despite the scale of the crisis, there is still hope. Turkey, having ratified the Paris Agreement in 2021, has committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2053. While this is a step in the right direction, more immediate and concrete actions are needed to mitigate the wildfire crisis. Reforestation efforts, focusing on fire-resistant species like carob and oak trees, are crucial for restoring the ravaged landscapes and building resilience against future fires. These native species are naturally adapted to withstand drought conditions and are less susceptible to intense burning, acting as natural fire breaks. Policy changes are also critical. Strengthening regulations against illegal logging and land clearing, coupled with stricter penalties for arson, will help deter destructive activities. Investing in early warning systems, fire monitoring technologies, and improved firefighting equipment will enhance Turkey's capacity to detect and respond to fires swiftly and effectively. International cooperation is essential. The European Union's Civil Protection Mechanism, which provided much-needed aid in the form of firefighting planes from Spain and Croatia, highlights the importance of collaborative efforts in combating these transboundary disasters. Sharing knowledge, resources, and expertise will be crucial in tackling the global wildfire crisis. Turkey's wildfire crisis is not an isolated incident. From the Amazon rainforest to the Australian bush, wildfires are raging across the globe, fueled by the same deadly combination of climate change and human activities. These fires know no borders, and their impact is felt far beyond the immediate areas they consume. The interconnectedness of our planet means that what happens in one corner of the world has ripple effects across the globe. The carbon emissions released from these fires contribute to the global climate crisis, leading to more extreme weather events, including, you guessed it, more wildfires. It's a vicious cycle that requires a collective global response. We are all stakeholders in this fight. The international community must work together to support countries like Turkey in their efforts to combat wildfires and mitigate the impacts of climate change. This includes providing financial aid, sharing expertise and technology, and upholding our commitments to international climate agreements. The time for complacency is long gone. The images of Turkey engulfed in flames should serve as a wake-up call to the entire world. We can no longer afford to ignore the urgent threat of climate change and its devastating consequences. The future of our planet, and indeed our very survival, depends on our actions today. Support the relief efforts in Turkey. Organizations like AKÜ, TİMA, and WWF Turkey are working tirelessly on the ground to provide aid to those affected by the fires and to restore the damaged ecosystems. Every donation, however small, can make a difference. Educate yourself and others about the climate crisis. Knowledge is power, and understanding the science behind climate change is crucial for driving meaningful action. Talk to your friends, family, and communities about the importance of climate action. Hold our leaders accountable. Demand that they prioritize climate action and implement policies that promote sustainability, reduce carbon emissions, and protect our planet for future generations. The time for action is now. Let's stand with Turkey, fight for our planet, and create a future where wildfires are not the norm, but a distant memory. As the smoke clears, Turkey faces the daunting task of rebuilding from the ashes. The 2024 wildfire crisis exposed vulnerabilities in the country's infrastructure and disaster preparedness. Amidst the devastation, there is an opportunity to rebuild stronger and more sustainable communities. Investing in climate-resilient infrastructure and sustainable land management is essential. Turkey must transition to renewable energy sources and promote energy efficiency. Engaging local communities and empowering women and youth are crucial. By embracing sustainability and resilience, Turkey can emerge stronger and more united.